He is one of the stars of Chicago Justice that airs on NBC at 9 Eastern Time on Sunday nights. He is also known to so many people in this town as the great Apollo Creed, but because it is the NFL draft, I will introduce him as the undrafted free agent for the Oakland Raiders out of 1970, none other than Carl Weathers here on the Rich Eisen Show. Good to see you, Carl.
Oh, thanks so much, man. It's so good to be here in Philadelphia.
Well, what does go through your mind when you stroll through the streets here, Carl?
Well, I mean, you know, the first thing that would go through anybody's mind, of course, is those steps, those iconic steps, you know, in front of the museum there, and seeing Rocky run up to the top, of course, and throw his hands in the air and jump around and just wait for me to beat on him a little bit. That's what I think about, Rich. You think I wasn't going to go there with that?
I love it. Fantastic. So when did you first get presented with the role of Apollo Creed? How did you get the script of Rocky and all that good stuff?
Well, you know, it's interesting because one would think, you know, when you do something that's successful, you would think, oh, man, they must have really wanted him. He was that good in that, you know, and he looked great and all the rest of that. Nope, they didn't want me. They didn't want anything to do with me because I was nobody.
Is that right?
Yeah, I was a young actor who'd done a lot of television, done some movies out of AIP, which was then doing quote unquote blaxploitation. And, I just was a guy really trying to make a career. And this script came to me through agents I had at the time. But I get the script, and my agent says to me, the perfect thing that you want to hear as a young actor. But they don't really want to meet you. I mean, wait a minute. I read this script. I'm chomping at the bit because it's so brilliantly written. Right. And I see yours truly as the only guy who can play Apollo Creed, of course. But they don't want to see me. And so, you know, after cajoling and crying and jumping up and down and finally begging, I got a chance to go in and read for it with a cattle call of probably 100, 150 guys.
Did you read with Stallone?
Yes, I did, but I didn't know that was Sylvester Stallone at the moment I met him.
I mean, he's relatively unknown at the time, right?
Yeah, but that's partly why. But the other part is I was introduced to him, the writer. So he comes into the room out of some vestibule somewhere, and he sits down, and they introduce, well, this is the writer of the screenplay. So I'm reading with him, and like 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday, when, you know, we've all wrapped up and people are going home or headed to get a drink with friends. And as Sly would do, he's doing Rocky, and there's mumble going on in him. And I'm standing up, I'm chomping at the bit, you know. I mean, I've got all this energy going, and at the end of it, the reading, it's like quiet. It's like crickets, man. But the producers and the directors are kind of leaning over to each other, and then I see John Avildsen, our director, giggle a little bit. And I'm really nervous now because I think I blew the interview, right, and blew the audition. So I chirp out, you know, if you get me a real actor, I could do a lot better. Nice. I have no idea of why they laughed, too, you know? And Stallone looks up at me like, this idiot, who's he? Who does he think he is? You know, and I tell people, I think I got the job because Sly wanted to beat the hell out of me.
He figured, let's get him in the ring.
Yeah, and I'll show him who.
But that also sounds like something Apollo Creed would say, though.
Well,
right? I mean, in a way.
You know what? To as far as I know and as far as I've heard, the one thing Sly always said was, well, he was so arrogant, I knew he could do the role, you know?
Well, it makes sense, right?
Yeah, but I wasn't being arrogant. I was being nervous, man. I wanted that role.
Carl Weathers here on the Rich Eisen Show. Do you know who they really wanted? Did you find out who they really wanted for the role?
They wanted any boxer who could act. And so at that time, there were a few guys out there.
Ali? Did they try for Ali?
No, I don't think they tried for Ali because that would have made no sense. But at the time, Ali was fighting Norton, and I think Norton at the time was really moving into acting. I not only think it, I know it because I had an opportunity to play, and most people don't know this. I had an opportunity to be in a movie called Drum, which Norton starred in. And I was ultimately cast to be the son of Drum. But then I got a chance to read for this movie called Rocky. Now, reading the script of Drum and reading the script of Rocky was like looking at gold and fool's gold. I had to go with the best script, and of course it was Rocky. And, you know, here we are, history, 40 years later, man.
When was the first time where you knew, okay, I'm part of something that is particularly special with this film?
I mean, I think reading the script, you really thought it was special. But once we got in the ring and we were doing the fight and choreographing the fight and filming the fight, I mean, it was like, wow, man, this is good. This is going to be good. Now I had brashly said to people, out of the mouths of babes, right, that I think this movie is going to be as big as Jaws. And they kind of looked at me like, really? Jaws is one of the biggest movies of all time. Well, I was working after Rocky on the streets of San Francisco. And we're working in San Francisco, of course. And I'm sitting on the pier getting some touch-ups for makeup at the end of the pier. And a young guy is walking toward me. And he comes over and he's seen Rocky. And he said, oh, man, I saw your movie. It was great. And he goes on through his, all these accolades. And then he says to me, I just finished a little movie I think is going to be as big as Rocky. And not unlike the people who probably looked at me like, this idiot, what is he talking about? I'm looking at this guy and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, right. Well, that guy happened to be Mark Hamill, and he was talking about Star Wars.
Oh, wow.
So out of the mouths of babes,
Wow.
Yeah.
What a story.
Wow. That's awesome.
It's crazy, man.
I want to take a quick break. You're part of NFL Network's red carpet coverage prior to the draft tonight, which
exciting celebration.
Yeah. And I want to talk to you about your memories of being around the Raiders in the early 70s, for crying out loud. Yeah. And ask you a question about Rocky. I've been dying to ask somebody who is in the movie about my 2 cents on what type of film it really is, and to get your take on all that.
Cool, man. Cool.
Okay, we're back in 60 seconds here from Philadelphia with Carl Weathers on the Rich Eisen Show, and Donovan McNabb still to come. All right, we're back in Philadelphia, PA with Carl Weathers. Chicago Justice. We're down to the final 2 episodes of Season 1. Check out Season 1's penultimate episode this Sunday, and then the season finale on May the 7th. And Carl, so you were undrafted out of San Diego State.
San Diego State, the great Don Coryell. Yeah.
Isn't that so? You played for Don Coryell there.
I did, man.
And then you're drafted. You're not drafted in the NFL. Yeah. You're signed as an undrafted free agent by Al Davis.
Yes. The connection was really one of our coaches actually wound up going to the Raiders and coaching for the Raiders, and of course John Madden had a connection to San Diego State. I'd been actually a down lineman until my last year, and I tried to convince them, come on, there's no way I'm going to be a defensive lineman in the NFL. I'm not going to, there's no way, ever, no, not big enough. But I wanted to play linebacker because I was fast enough, I was quick enough, and that's how that happened, and finally got that chance, went there, and man, I think there were only that year maybe 4 rookies, 5 at the most that made the team. I was the only undrafted one, and we had a number 1, a number 2, a number 3, and I can't remember what the other draft player was drafted at. But it was just great memories. Really.
So, what was it like to be around John Madden?
Scary as hell.
Time?
Scary as hell for a rookie. Come on, I mean, these guys today, come into the NFL, and they're really, I think in many ways more mature because of the systems today. And of course the NFL is there and really kind of marshaling what the future is going to be for them when they come into the NFL, So young guys today, I think, are far more prepared in some ways. They're still young.
Sure. But
they're prepared at least for the next step, coming out of college back then, man. And also as an undrafted player, I mean, sure. That's like being thrown to the wolves. You really got to have your stuff together. And, I was just very fortunate that I was a good enough athlete. I worked out with a lot of really great players who went on into the NFL.
And then also into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I mean, there were tons of guys around there at the time. Willie Brown was probably part
absolutely.
On this team, the Stork, right?
I played with Willie. I played with Gene Upshaw. I played with Art Shell, Blanda, Bolitnikoff, the Snake. Warren Wells,
Ted Hendricks, right?
No, Hendricks wasn't
there yet. Okay.
Hendricks came, I think, a little bit
later.
Year after.
Okay.
Yeah,
Otto was
Jim Otto, Gus Otto.
Wow.
Billy, I'll tell you what, Billy Cannon was there when I first got there.
Come on.
That's how old I am, man.
No, come on.
Marv Hubbard was there. And the second year, part of that year before I was waived, Jack Tatum was there. I mean, there were some great players. Great players.
Was Madden the one who told you were cut, or was there somebody?
Of course, there's nothing like as a young guy who really, really wants to make it, getting that call, which is coach wants to see you take your playbook. When you hear take your playbook,
it's over.
That does not bode well.
And so Madden was the one who sat you down.
Yeah. But I got to tell you, I have so much respect for him for so many reasons. First of all, I mean, as it goes, I think he's one of the greatest coaches in the NFL. And coaching with the Raiders and coaching for Al Davis, I mean, you got to be one hell of a man to stand up to Al Davis, So Madden, I throw all kinds of love out to him.
I got Carl Weathers here in the Rich Eisen show. So is that when you turned to acting? Once that happened?
I started acting when I was a kid. So I was a theater major at San Diego State. I've always been a little schizophrenic there. Rich,
okay.
The split personality,
Well, I mean, you also knew that, this football thing wasn't going to act very long. And I know you went to play in Canada for a few years.
Yeah.
And then we talked about Rocky a little bit. You're also in Happy Gilmore, which is one of the all-time great sports comedies.
When you read that script, did that hit you the same as Rocky?
I loved it, man. At the time it was interesting because there were so many crazy kind of movies being made, and Adam Sandler was on the ascent then, right? Mm-hmm. And we met, and I had this chance to meet with him and just talk with him for a bit, and he gave his blessing, and I was in the movie, and had one of the best times ever.
Where's Chubbs' wooden hand?
I wish I had it, man. I've collected so many things. Don't know. Haven't a clue. I would love to have it all broken with the fingers missing, and so you'd have to glue them back on,
What do you have from Rocky? What do you have from...
Well, I mean, how about the original shorts? The original wardrobe. The original.
You do
wardrobe.
have it.
Oh, absolutely. Only thing I don't have is the hat. You know why? No, here's the crazy reason why, man.
Yeah.
I loved the hat. At the time, I still lived in Oakland and had this great house in Oakland, and I put the hat upside down on a side table in sort of this TV room, and I put a plant in it. Oh. A big fern.
Come on.
So the fern sticking out of the top. The one thing I didn't figure on was you put a dish under the plant, but it's clay, and the damn things leached through, and the hat was ruined. So I lost the hat. But I have the shorts. I have the shoes. I have the socks. I have the tassels. I have all that
When was
stuff.
the last time you put the shorts on?
Get out of here.
Seriously. When was the last
You're
time?
looking at me very salacious there.
No.
You want to put those shorts on, don't you? You want to wear those shorts,
Why
don't
not?
you?
I would. I'd walk around the house in them. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'd sleep in them.
I haven't worn the shorts, man.
What was the shine up process? Because you, in all those fight scenes, you guys are shooting for a long time.
I walk around like that all the time, man.
I mean,
that's the way I am.
Are you getting baby oil?
I
in
do
between
glow,
takes?
baby. I glow. Come on.
I want a good Predator Schwarzenegger story.
Oh my God, how many are there? A really good one. So I can't tell a really good ones.
They're not safe for work.
No, they're not safe for radio or anybody
We were
else.
talking about that with Cube just the last week in studio. 20 years, by the way. 20 years since Predator.
My God. No,
Anaconda.
30.
30 years for Predator.
30 years
for Predator.
40 since Rocky and 30 years since Predator.
I'm mixing up my movies. Wow. Before I let you go, Carl, I've always said this about Rocky, that, and I'll give you tell me if I'm right or wrong. Rocky is, in your words, if you can only call it one thing, a boxing movie or a love story?
Love story. Absolutely.
Damn straight it is.
Absolutely. Not only is it a love story in the traditional sense with the romance with the woman, but it's a love story between those two men. So, you've got this whole thing about the wonderful thing about athletics. This is something I picked up very early on. You have so much respect for the competition when they're great. They are what elevate you because you try to do your best to defeat the competition. But you also have this tremendous love because you know what that man or that woman has had to go through to become the best that they are. So you admire them, you compete against them, you love them, man. You love them because you aspire to be as good as they are. And that's to me, that's why that thing works so much.
Because I get asked all the time your favorite sports movies, and I don't put Rocky in there, and people are like, why wouldn't you put Rocky in there? Because I'm like, I don't consider it a sports movie. It is a love story that surrounds boxing.
Yeah.
That is what I honestly, not to get too deep and artsy here, but truly.
It's okay to get deep and artsy. I disagree with what you just said. I will say that. It is a sports movie.
Well,
come on, man.
I guess, you are right in that regard, but I mentioned movies like Hoosiers. I mentioned movies that. That's the sort of thing that I talk about.
No, I get what you say. Well, I mean, look, I agree with you in the sense that when you're talking about a movie like that, but even there, I mean, there are things in that movie that you could say, wait a minute, this is about this set in a football world, or this is about this set in a basketball world, or set in a boxing world. And I think the thing about Rocky, what we wind up doing that really sets it both as a love story and a movie that's a sports movie, is that we get in there and do what those people who are in reality that do. They have to train. They have to overcome. They ultimately have to get in there and take the blows, whether it's, in boxing ring or in the football field. And ultimately you overcome not only those things inside you that normally, will be the things that defeat you, but you have to then, again, compete against the other man or woman and defeat them. So I think in that sense, that it is about sport. Those are the things for me that always make sport that much more important to watching, because it's about overcoming those obstacles.
It's one of the greatest movies of all time. I've loved having you here. I want you to please come by when we're in Los Angeles.
You know what? We'll make it happen.
Let's do that. Enjoy your time on NFL Network tonight.
Looking forward to it. Tune in, folks. Tune in. It's going to be beautiful.
In the streets of Philly. That's tonight. The NFL Network red carpet with you and Melissa Stark and the rest of all of us. And then Chicago Justice on NBC at 9 Eastern Time. Carl Weathers, you are the man.
I love it. I love it. We're going to be on those famous steps this afternoon, so check us out.
I can't wait. Yeah. That would be great. Carl Weathers here. Donovan McNabb making his way to the studio, back with you and phone calls and checking on what else is going on in the world. The Chris Command Center news update still to come here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.